Hello everyone, and welcome to Nintendo Kids, the podcast all about Nintendo, past, present, and future, with Christian and Carl. And I'm Christian.
And I'm Carl.
And we're back for episode 2. Episode 2 already.
All right. Things are moving along nicely.
Yeah.
We actually stuck with it.
Yeah, we did.
More than one episode.
We're back, whether you like us or not. Hopefully, if you listened before, you did like us.
Yes, I hope.
Yeah. It was first time I think either of us did a podcast, so we...
If you want to count that Wolfenstein one.
Oh, we did do the Wolfenstein one, yeah.
For classical school
gaming. Yeah. So we did one before, but yeah, that was I was kind of getting familiar with it, and I think it went pretty well.
I think so. Hopefully the sound quality is a little bit better on this one, because I actually have the equipment I need to record both of us with our own independent microphones, as opposed to last time, which was just an open air microphone for both of us, and there was no volume settings or anything. It just, my opinion, sounded not as good as I know it could be. So
yeah, well, it was a good first run, and it's only going to get better from here.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
So how was your holidays?
Pretty good. Went very quick. It was a very quick meeting family and friends and rushing toward the new year.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
Yours?
Yes, it was very good, very good. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Happy New Year to all our listeners out there.
That's right. Happy New Year. It's 2014. We are now. This podcast has now breached 2 years.
2 whole years.
2 years.
Wow,
it's amazing.
How time flies. All right, before we jump into what we're our topics for today, I just want to go through some clarifications and corrections from our last podcast. I re-listened to it, and there's a couple areas where I'm like, ooh, what? So, so let me read off what I have on my list here. And actually, now that I look at it, there's 2 things that I still haven't done my research on, which is when I got my Nintendo and when I got my Super Nintendo. I have guesses of years, but I'm not going to guess again. We'll eventually get my hands on a copy of our Christmas tapes and watch them if I can find a VHS player somewhere. But anyway, on to the corrections and clarifications. Number 1, Mario and Donkey Kong for Atari. You could see his shoes most of the time, although there was one frame where his shoe that was up was the same color as his clothes. That, technical limitations of Atari. You'll have these things.
You got to give him some slack.
Yeah. The Super Nintendo came out in North America in the year 1991. The Nintendo 64 came out in North America in the year 1996. Donkey Kong cereal came out in 1982. And instead of looking like those Captain Crunch shapes, they more looked like elongated pumpkins instead of barrels.
Wow.
Or Captain Crunch. Yeah. I'm surprised it came out that early. I wonder how long they made it for. Maybe I should look that up too, because I remember eating it.
Yeah, I don't remember that. It
came out in 82. I was like 3 years old. 2, possibly 3 years old. And I remember eating it, so I wonder how long it went for. The Super Mario Super Show is available from Amazon on DVD or instant video.
Ooh.
Danny Wells played Luigi in the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, and he died on December 4th, 2013.
Yeah.
As you stated, it was a couple weeks before our last podcast. Lou Albano and Danny Wells only did the voices for the Super Mario Bros. Super Show cartoon. Much to, I could have sworn they did it for the Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3, but they did not. That was Walker Boone and Tony Rosado, and they also reprised their voices as Mario and Luigi, respectively, for the Super Mario World cartoon. Walker Boone, good job of Mario. Tony Rosado, sorry. Just wasn't getting behind your Luigi. The Super Nintendo can display 256 colors at once. The Sega Genesis could display 64. Blast processing is either marketing BS or a coding trick, but not a secret coding trick. Just coding trick that programmers apparently know. But I couldn't find any information on which one it was. there was people in both camp that it was just marketing. That seems to be the prevalent opinion, that it was marketing, or it was just some trick that they used that they blew out of proportion, hence the marketing. Luke Skywalker flew an X-34 land speeder in Star Wars Episode 4.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
The first Mode 7 game that I played was Super Mario World, and you too, I guess.
Yeah, I guess me too.
Yeah, I did not realize it had a Mode 7, but thinking about it, yeah, I guess that makes sense. F-Zero also did use Mode 7. My birthday cake shield was from Twilight Princess. That's what it was modeled after. And finally, congratulations to you and Lisa for expecting a baby boy.
Yeah. We have a new Nintendo kid on the way.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting. Yeah, June. It'll be June.
Very good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you actually want this in the podcast, so we can edit it out later if you want it or not.
That's okay.
I don't know how personal you want to get on these things. So,
No.
But I threw it out there with the thought of, I could just delete it if he doesn't like it.
Right. No, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
So anyway, that's all. That's it for the corrections and clarifications.
All right. You know what? I just coming to think, I was trying to remember Mode 7 last time and like what games had it. You know what confused me? I was thinking of the Super FX chip, which was in Star Fox.
Oh, Star Fox.
And for some reason, my brain kind of combined the two, and I wasn't too sure. But that makes sense. Your research has done well.
Thank you. I try.
We've been talking about what else to do with the podcast instead of just having a straight topic, and maybe throwing a little salt and pepper here and there, maybe some news. And one thing we came up with was, what are you playing? And from time to time we'll ask each other what we're playing and talk a little bit briefly about the game or games before we jump into the main topic. So I will start with you, Carl. What are you playing?
What am I playing? Currently, I am playing the new Legend of Zelda game, Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, for the Nintendo 3DS. And before that, I was playing Legend of Zelda: Wind Waker for the GameCube. But once that was before I got A Link Between Worlds, and that kind of took over from there. I've been playing that one pretty steadily when I get some free time. I'm pretty far into it. I'm guessing I'm on the last leg of it. Maybe 2 temples left is what I'm guessing. How about you, Christian? What are you playing?
Well, as a matter of fact, I am also playing The Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds. The last podcast, I didn't even have a 3DS, and I was waiting until my birthday, which is just in a couple of weeks, to buy one for myself as a little birthday present. But at Target, a week before Christmas, there was a sale. 3DS XL was on sale for $150, which is actually cheaper than the 3DS regular size.
Yes.
So I jumped on that, picked it up, and picked up A Link Between Worlds, and
which was supposed to be my Christmas present to you.
Yeah.
I went and bought it. When I heard you got it, I'm like, no, that was my present.
Sorry.
Now what am I supposed to get him?
But he got me Ocarina of Time 3D, and I am anxious to play that one too. I did give that a quick little spin around the block, and man, the graphics are so much better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like night and day. I love Ocarina of Time, but I have no problem admitting the graphics certainly are dated and muddy and not very fluid. And so what they did with Ocarina of Time 3D for 3DS is it's like so much brighter and so much better looking.
Yeah. I right before I got the 3DS XL, I was playing Majora's Mask. I have never played that game before. That was the first time, and I had it on the Wii for like ever. I got it from the Virtual Console, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. And I started playing it, and it's basically the same kind of graphics as Ocarina of Time, only it's like on acid or something. There's some weird stuff in that game. But as I was playing it, I'm like, oh man, it's definitely showing its age. And then playing Ocarina of Time 3D just after Christmas, I was just blown away. I mean, it's essentially the same graphics. It's just they've just been cleaned up, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
what they've done.
I want to say they added more polygons as well, like to the character models, because now you can actually see independent fingers on characters as opposed to the old one where their hands were cubes
Yeah.
with the fingers drawn on the textures pasted onto those cubes. So the game looks better that way. If I had a qualm with it, well, I'm sure we'll talk about this game in future. I don't want to get too detailed on this because it makes a good topic. But the one thing that sticks out, I'm kind of a purist when it comes to that game. Now, granted, I do like the 3DS remake, but it's not 100% perfect translation over, which I guess is no big secret. But even like one subtle thing that I don't like is when adult Link runs, his movements are slower on the 3DS, and it almost looks kind of comical because there's like, I think there's too much time between when his steps. So it's like a click, 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 click. Like he's running like he's,
Like in quicksand?
yeah. I'm waiting for like Chariots of Fire to start playing like behind him or something like that. Because, in Ocarina of Time for Nintendo 64, it was like click, 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 click. He was like, like hoofing it. But, so it's just like a little like nuance there that it's like, yeah. And, another thing I actually don't like, and here I am, we're still talking about it, and here I'm like, shouldn't be talking about it because we're going to probably talk about it later. But one other thing, but I'll mention both of these if we ever bring this up, is they brought in, when you're adult Link, when you're fighting an enemy, occasionally he'll twirl his sword, like the Link from Twilight Princess. And I don't think it should be like that, because the Link in Ocarina of Time doesn't have the same, the way I interpreted it and the way it was, that I interpreted the game. The Link from Ocarina of Time does not have the same, for lack of a better word, attitude that the Link from Twilight Princess did. Twilight Princess Link was a little bit older, and he just seemed a little like more, I don't know, just had a little more like attitude and flair, and the sword twirl that he did, like it fit him. Whereas the one from Ocarina of Time seems like more like a pure Link, and since he was one of the first ones, and the hero of time and everything like that, and the sword twirl doesn't. It's almost seemed like a little bit like a disrespectful move, like an arrogant show off thing, and I don't think the character of that Link should have that. But that's a me problem. A lot of people might like it. All right, this Link is cool, like Twilight Princess. He has attitude. He twirls the sword and everything like that. So, that's just my own personal, gripe, and it's mine, and I have to live with it.
Yeah, I didn't get that far yet, but so far I like that game. Definitely been playing a lot more of Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, finish that one off first, and because Ocarina of Time deserves a fair shake.
I think so. I don't think I want to treat that one as like second fiddle. That one, you get its own time. Link Between Worlds, I think I'm probably about as far as you are. I believe I have one more dungeon, temple, whatever, and then I would assume the last one,
Final temple.
But I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. I have one more X on my map.
Me too. But really fun game. I really enjoy it. I recommend it to anybody who likes Zelda games.
Yes, me too. Especially if you are a fan of A Link to the Past.
Yeah, agreed. This is a new game, and it's been rated very highly. One of the gaming websites rated it as the game of the year. I want to say it was GameSpot, but maybe I'll correct that in the next episode. But we do want to talk about this game a lot, and we're itching to talk about it. We've been playing it for several weeks separately, and we have not talked about it
at all,
and it's been very hard. We are going to do a dedicated episode to A Link Between Worlds, so stay tuned for that one. We're going to be very chatty.
Yeah.
All right, but today's topic is actually about the Wii U.
The Wii U.
It came out last year. Well, now 2 years. It came out in November of 2012, and
So a year and what 13, 14, we're talking like 13 months.
Yeah.
14 months.
Yeah, it's struggled so far in its first year. It has two new competitors out. They both came out in November of 2013, and they're flying off the shelves like hotcakes. We've both talked a little bit, I think, just before we started this whole idea of the podcast,
Right.
about the Wii U, and we kind of had some reservations about it and what we liked and didn't like about it. My feelings have changed a little bit. We'll get into that. But I have some numbers if you'd like me to share.
Yeah, I mean, go for it. I was looking for numbers, but I kept on finding conflicting reports, and I also didn't. I was reading articles because I wanted some numbers also, like to throw those out there but I just couldn't. I'd find some numbers say like this many units sold, but then I'd look on the official, or at least like, at officials, and they have this many numbers shipped. And I'm like, well, is shipped the same as sold? I don't think so.
No.
So I just decided to, instead of throwing numbers out there that I don't know what they mean, that I'm just going to say, Nintendo Wii U had a weak start, and the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 had a better start. And
Yeah.
so I was going to be talking broad terms like that.
Yeah. Obviously, I think a lot of these numbers, they get thrown around and there's estimates and things. But
Yeah, I mean, I found like the ones that I actually found some like quote unquote solid numbers was from VGCharts.com, which is apparently a, they're not official, so you're supposed to take those numbers with a grain of salt. So I was just like, no, I'm just not going to mention these numbers then, because I don't know what they mean or where they got the numbers from. So,
well, at the
But
end
go for it.
of 2013, so just a week or two ago, Sony sold 4.2 million PlayStation 4s. Microsoft sold 3.1 million Xbox One units. I got that from the Motley Fool website. Those are pretty good numbers for consoles that are about a month old.
yeah.
Nintendo forecasted that by March of 2014, so just a few months from now, they would have sold 9 million. Their last reported numbers were in September, and it was 3.9 million. Recent estimates from third parties have an estimation of about 5.2 million sold by around Christmas time. So they're about 4 million behind their estimation for March, which isn't impossible, but it's not going to happen.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. They have had actually a really good lineup of games throughout 2013, ending up near the end of the year with Super Mario 3D World, which, as I've been reading more about and watching videos on, it looks like a really solid game, and it's probably a system mover. But Christmas is over now, and we're kind of in the doldrums of winter, and it's that period where I think
Nobody buys anything.
yeah, people aren't really buying much, and
They're recovering from Christmas and
Yeah.
and have to save money for heat.
right, yeah,
Assuming you live in the north like we do.
right, yeah. So it's looking a little tough for them to meet those estimations. It just all around looks like the Wii U has not done what Nintendo wanted it to do, and for a variety of reasons, it just isn't what the audience was looking for. I don't know. What are your thoughts on?
Well, I have a whole bunch of notes here, so if you hear any paper shuffling, it's just me going through my notes. And like I have several, I mean, it's gonna be like my uninformed outsider opinion. I don't do market research or follow trends or anything like that. So I'm not saying I know better or even know remotely the same as people that actually work at Nintendo doing like consumer trends and tastes and everything like that. So these are my lame opinions, whatever they're worth. So what's the problem with the Wii U? Well, I mean, I got some speculations, I suppose, but like you, I think my opinion also might have changed, because like 2 months ago I was very, I guess maybe harsh and thinking like they're just doing it wrong. What's wrong with them? They're screwing up left and right. And now it's like, well, or like I used to, the system sucks. It's so bad. What a horrible idea and everything. But now it's like, well, the system's probably not that bad, but there's something missing from it. But I don't know. There's a couple things that I probably would have did differently if I was in charge of the system. Like, first of all, I wouldn't have called it the Wii U.
No.
I really think that's a really bad name. What does the name Wii U say? Like, it worked for the Wii because it was the first system called the Wii, and it meant that whole like Wii as like what's the word? Homonym, sound the same. Homophone. Is that what's called? Words that sound the same, like there and there.
Right.
But so we as in WEWII collective, that whole thing. But 2012, the Wii was old news.
Yeah.
The motion control waving was done to death. Nobody wanted to do it anymore, I don't think. The system was almost kind of like a joke in a way because it didn't have HD graphics. Games looked muddy and didn't have much processing power. So it was definitely a gaming system that was on its way out the door. So I wondered, like, why would they name their system, the brand new system, on the same as a system that's on its way out the door? I mean, what are they trying to say with that? And for non-gaming people, like parents or something like that, it could be confusing. Like, I already have a Wii. This one probably just has a touch screen, but it's the same exact thing. It's not worth dropping $300 over. I mean, maybe they want to piggyback on the success of the Wii, but it was looked at kind of down on it at the end. So unless they were trying to make the name Wii like their system name, like Xbox is Microsoft's system name, PlayStation is Sony's system name, but I don't know. I mean, like, that's not Nintendo. Doesn't seem Nintendo's thing. Like, they have new names for all their systems.
Yeah. Well, one thing that you mentioned is parents saying like, well, I already have a Wii. That the Wii U is just what, a touchscreen? A lot of people were under the impression that the Wii U was the controller that connected to the Wii.
Oh.
And if you noticed around the holidays when they had the commercials, it was actually kind of the first time I remember seeing like hot and heavy Wii U commercials.
And that's the point I was going to make further down the list.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it was my next point. But
those commercials, if you
segue.
listen closely, one of the kids are like, "It's a whole new system," and I gathered from that people didn't realize that it was a new system, and maybe just kind of looked at it like, "Oh, well, the Wii's kind of old, and they're just putting out a new controller." I don't know if that was a big reason for it not to be selling. I think there were others, but I noticed that as soon as the commercials came out, and then I was reading online, and it sounded like that was the case. A lot of people didn't really know this was a new thing.
Go ahead.
No, I agree with you. Like, the name Wii and the successor is kind of odd for Nintendo. Maybe they could have. They had the Nintendo Entertainment System and then the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
Right, that was the last time they actually had like a name follow suit.
Right, but then you had the Nintendo 64 and the GameCube and the Wii, and they were all unique, and it just seemed a little odd to have Wii U, and it wasn't the Super Wii, which I would have said, oh, all right, well, it's kind of a cruddy name, but it works. But Wii U is just strange.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, after the Super Nintendo, it seems like each system's name kind of described it in some way.
Yeah.
Nintendo 64 was the first 64-bit system. The GameCube was a GameCube. It was a cube that played games. And the Wii was their, family gathering around, collective playing together thing. But the Wii U, like, what does that say? Like, what does that say? It's different, and like, maybe they would have been better off calling it something like Nintendo Touch or something along those lines, just something different than the Wii U. But like you're saying, those commercials, they had to like explain what it was. Yeah, it's a whole new system, or like I mentioned before, what was I gonna say? I mean, like, with those commercials, it's like I said, like, people getting confused if it's a whole new system or not. Like that one where she's trying to show the kids how to sales pitch like their parents, and the parents like, but we already have a Wii, sweetiekins. Like, it's that commercial. It's the whole new.
Yeah.
Like, you have to tell them. It's a subtle admission that there's perception of confusion that the Wii and the Wii U are the same thing or nearly the same thing, and that's not good if people are confusing it to be the same thing.
Yeah, not at all. And I think you could have. I don't really exactly remember, but in the early '90s with the Nintendo and then the Super Nintendo, those were really gamers. Like even the kids, like they were all gamers. The Wii is special because almost everyone I know has one, and I would say about half or more than half the people I know aren't gamers. So, you get somebody who buys a Wii to play Wii Sports and never really bought anything else for it, and they see Wii U, they don't know that it's something new. Like they're not following this. So it's I don't know. I just thought it was an odd move.
And another thing that makes it tough for, I would say, parents and non-gamers is, well, like with the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, at least they looked different. Like the regular Nintendo was black, gray, and red. Those were its colors. Super Nintendo was gray and purple. They were different. But the Wii U and the Wii are very similar. They're pure white with some blue or black trim. They're very, like, they're just too close. And like the way new systems, so like PlayStation will release a thinner version of a PlayStation, so there's iterations of systems that come out that are better. So how do you, if you're a non-gaming parent or something like that, how do you differentiate between the Wii and the Wii U just visually or by the name? Like what do you even know what you're buying? I feel bad for parents that don't play games, because if their kid asks for a Wii U and they go out and they just see Wii, they just, that's the name that'll stick in their head because it's a funny name, and they'll go out and buy a Wii, and little Jimmy's gonna be disappointed on Christmas when he opens up a 6-year-old video game system.
Yeah, and then the special thing about it, of course, is the controller,
right?
Which is, when it was announced, I remember thinking to myself, it's an interesting idea. They've had success with the DS and the 3DS, and I think it was new at the time. And I'm like, okay, get that. And everybody is playing games on tablets and phones, and touchscreen gaming is kind of a big deal. But I was kind of hesitant to see how they were going to really use it to differentiate themselves. And I don't feel that they have. I looked online at most of the games that are out, and I looked for, it's a feature called off TV support, or I think it's called off TV or play offline or something.
Yeah.
And it allows you to actually take the game, put it on the screen on the controller, and you can just turn off the TV, or mom and dad can watch the news, or your wife or whatever, and you can free up that TV and still play Super Mario 3D World, which is great. But now you've taken away the ability to use that touchscreen in a way that you couldn't remove it from the game otherwise. So, you could have done something really innovative with it. And for Super Mario 3D World, I don't know what that would be. But if you did, now you couldn't take that off of the TV, and you couldn't just sit on the couch with it in your hand. To the opposite of that, you build that in. Now your game's not going to be able to do that anymore, and you're only able to use it as a regular controller with a screen. So I just feel like that's something they should have gone one or the other with.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that. Like, say you're playing a game, and there's something on the touchscreen that's critical to the game. You're playing, Mario, and there's this one boss that you have to look on the touchscreen and push a button on the touchscreen in order to beat the boss. Well, all of a sudden you turn off the TV and you turn on the off TV play, and where does that button go? What happens to it? Does the game change to meet you playing on the controller? I would hope so. With that, or it would be pointless.
Right.
Again, I don't have a Wii, so I don't know how that would work. Maybe I shouldn't be dissing it if my uneducated.
No,
but I don't know, it just seems, it's just one more thing to think about with that off TV. It's like if you have something that's critical on that gamepad to the game play, it better be something that can be shrunk down really small. or else
Yeah.
off TV can't be done on that game.
Right. You'd have to either, and this would still, you just take away from it because you'd just be adding buttons. But even if you slid the game screen slightly to the right, say, so you have a little strip where you could put some buttons, and all well and good, I guess, but you're not really using the touch screen. You're just making more buttons, and ones that you can't even tactily feel. So, I don't know if tactily is a word, but you won't be able to feel it when you press them.
Right.
So I think that's a problem too, and I think there's great opportunity for it. And I believe Wind Waker does this, but of course my first thought of when they announced the Wii U was, oh, I wonder what they'll do with Zelda. And my first thought was, instead of having to pause the game, you can actually just have on the touchscreen all your items or your map or whatever. And I thought that would be fantastic. I believe Wind Waker does this if you're playing on the TV. I think if you play off TV, it will, you'll still have to go the old way, hit start and do it that way. That's one way of doing it, I guess. You get a little more interactivity on the fly. So it might be a good blend in that sense. But most games won't do that. And, I think they haven't done a good job in their first-party titles of showing third parties how you can really make the most of the gamepad.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's some technical limitations that I'm unaware of here, but why can't there only be one gamepad? Why can't player 2 have a touch screen also? That just seems like a huge negative right there. Two people are playing a game. Player 1 gets the better experience because they have the touchpad, and player 2, it's like, well, here's a classic controller or a Wiimote to play with. I think it would help sell multiplayer games like the Maddens or something. Like you play John Madden football on that. You could choose your plays on touchscreen there, or your opponent has no idea what plays you're even going for. You don't see them up on the TV there, or any other sort of objectives or something. You're playing a first-person shooter of some type. Your objective could show up on only your map, and you have to get to it, or something. But player 2, or any other players for that matter, they're out of luck. Sorry, you don't get a touchscreen to look at or use or utilize. So it's for a system that's supposed to be like encompassing and gathering and getting people together to play. Sorry, only one of you get the best experience. All the rest of you, deal.
Yeah, it was an odd move. I'm sure there's a technical thing with that, just to split the wireless bandwidth to display all that stuff. But or maybe it's a cost prohibitive thing too. Like they figured most people aren't going to buy 4 gamepads.
Yeah, but it doesn't even seem, from what I understand, it's not even capable of having a second one. So even if you bought a second one, I would think that it would be something they would want. Like, oh, let's get people to spend more money on controllers. We'll only give them one, but if they really want to play, we'll give them the option of having this second controller that utilizes the touchscreen, but they'll have to buy it on their own. But hey, you're selling hardware. Just don't limit us.
Yeah.
Yet Nintendo, I think, sometimes has a history of limiting us on things.
It reminds me of we put the Wii. The Wii was laying kind of dormant in my game room for a while, and I decided to bring it downstairs in the living room. And I told Lisa, I was like, "Hey, we could, maybe we could play some games together." And we played Super Mario Brothers, and it was kind of fun. But she kept dying, so we eventually got to Super Mario Galaxy, and I was playing it, and I was a little rusty because it's been a long time, and I was about halfway through the game, so it was somewhat difficult levels, and I wasn't.
Might as well start over.
Yeah, I pretty much should have, but it sort of has multiplayer. Kind of. The second player can move a cursor around and pick up stuff for you, and
shoot people.
Yeah, and it wasn't a lot of fun for her.
Yeah,
and
it's almost like
it wasn't fun for me because I could tell she was just kind of like, okay, this sucks.
Yeah, it's basically, I mean, that I know what they're trying to do to get, again, parents to play probably with their kids, but it's second player is totally screams, "You're not good at games. Here's a simple task: point at stuff."
Yeah,
You know?
and it seems like that would be your option with Wii U. It's, first player gets the full experience, and everybody else gets this secondary kind of, it's like, well, you can use the regular controller, but none of the touchscreen stuff, which actually, now I think about it, might be even irrelevant. The touchscreen stuff you can't deal with. It's only the first player that can do that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad. I felt bad. I played Mario Galaxy one time, and Alyssa was actually the player 2 collecting my star bits. Was that what they were called?
I think, yeah.
Star bits and shoot them. And I felt so bad because here I'm having all the fun, running, jumping, narrow escapes, and beating, doing spinning fist moves and flying through the galaxy, and she's back there just, pointing at things. So
Right.
it's like, oh, I don't want to play this anymore because I feel bad. Let's play something that you could play too.
Yeah, it's odd for the successor to the system that was honestly, I think, the most fun system I ever had multiplayer, like with groups. Like Nintendo and Super Nintendo were a lot of fun, but they were basically 2-player. Not many people had the multi-tap.
I did.
You did?
I did. It's
don't
still
remember
downstairs.
that.
Actually, I
Wow.
have it. But yeah, it's the Wii was a party system. Like,
Yeah.
I had, I don't remember ever any system really. But like Wii parties were something we did. If you remember back in like 2007, 2008, we'd have
Yeah.
Wii parties. Everybody would come over here and we just pop in Mario Party or Smash Brothers or something, and you just have Wii parties, and it was the ultimate party system. And for a system that's supposed to be basically like its sequel,
Yeah.
here's your one gamepad, and everybody else gets something else.
Right. Yeah. It's an odd transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some other things that I was looking at, that it touched upon a little bit earlier, is that their first party games that came out in the last year are good or great. Super Mario 3D World is highly regarded as just a fantastic game. Pikmin 3, I never played any of the Pikmin games.
I never did either.
I heard good things about them. Pikmin 3 came out. Everybody says that's a great game. Oddly enough, one review I read said that it was way more fun to play with the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. Just saying. Wind Waker HD was also highly regarded, which is great and all, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. And as a big fan of Wind Waker, I would love to play that game someday. But in that case, it's a remake. It's a game that has already been out.
It's an old game.
It's an old game.
It's not a new game.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I'm sure are playing it for the first time, which is great. And if you are one of them, I very excited for you because I love that game. But for the rest of us, it'll probably be a fun playthrough again, but it's a playthrough again. We've done it.
I'm playing through it right now on the Wii, actually, with the GameCube disc right now, and I'm having a good time. And it still looks good even on standard definition. It's still a good game like that. Since that game wasn't meant to be real, it aged very well.
It did. Yeah.
So,
kudos to them. That was either foresight or it was them just saying like, we want to do a cartoon style game, and it actually just happened to work in their favor.
Yeah, it may not be the sharpest thing, but it still looks good. Even I'm playing on in my theater room on the projector, and I'm having a good time with it. So, I would like to play the HD version. If I had a preference, I'd certainly rather be playing that one because I like HD now.
Yeah.
Like all of us, we do. But it's not something I could justify the Wii for.
Right.
I'm sorry, Wii U.
Wii U.
For.
Right. And they have a couple of third-party games. I didn't write them all down. There were a handful, not a bunch, but they were a handful. But two that kind of stand out, and they both came out, I think, around the time the system launched, was Zombie U and Rayman Legends. And read good things about both of them. I like the Rayman games. I played the one on the Vita from a year or two ago, and I actually liked it a lot.
I've only played the Raving Rabbids games, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. But they were highly regarded too, but it seems like the third-party games are few and far between. There was an Assassin's Creed game came out, which also came out on the PS3 and Xbox.
Rayman is Ubisoft, isn't it?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think Ubisoft is kind of like the third-party.
Yeah, it's like the only third party that I know
Yeah.
that fully supports like Nintendo. They were the first ones there with the Wii, and here they are with the Wii U. So
Yeah. Support is not great for it right now. Could be a variety of reasons. I think part of it, and I'm just saying this because I think they would need to do it just to appease them. I don't think that the Wii U really needs the horsepower that the PS4 and the Xbox One have. If you look at Super Mario 3D World screenshots or videos, it's absolutely gorgeous, and I don't think I've seen a better game yet. Like it's just amazing looking. That being said, nowadays all these third-party companies, for the most part, will make a game and release it for the PS3, for the Xbox 360, or now PS4 and Xbox One, and they're just ported over. They're developed once, and the software just kind of works on all of them, the way they're compiled and everything. And I know there's little differences, but it's a lot harder to make the game essentially the same on two of the consoles, and then have to scale it down considerably for the other one. I think that was a problem with the Wii.
Yeah.
The controller scheme, I'm sure, played a part of it. You could probably have pushed a classic controller if you wanted to, but I think that was a big part of it. They'd pump out these games like constantly, and it's like, oh my god, it looks exactly the same, and it's wonderful on both systems, and then like the Wii is sitting out there, and it's like, well, we are also developing a Wii version, and it would be totally different. Or it's like, we have different ideas for some Wii games, and they'd be totally different. And those are resources that these companies, I just don't think, are pumping out. They want to pump out that amount of money to make this game so many different times.
Yeah.
So I don't think it will hurt Nintendo to make gorgeous games on the hardware that they've released. I think it's going to be hard to keep third parties interested in wanting to make the same game on all three consoles.
yeah, I think that's a good point.
So that could be a problem. And like I said before, I don't think that the first party games have done a good job of saying like, hey, you can create some really unique and cool stuff with the gamepad. I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, like I don't know what I want to say. Like, there's the Wii U, for me anyway, and apparently there's a couple million people that it has, but there's nothing appealing. Like there's really nothing that's really grabbing me. Even the first party games like Super Mario 3D World.
3D World,
That
yeah.
new one came out. I have a problem with the Mario games names now. They're very, very similar, and they're very, very confusing. They should really stop doing that. Like, come up with like a better system of naming them. What's wrong with the numbers? But anyway, I don't know. Like the new Super Mario 3D World, you can become cats and everything, which is, all right, fine. But like, the 2D aspects of it don't seem that much different than New Super Mario Brothers Wii, and the 3D free roaming areas remind me a lot of Super Mario Galaxy. So it's like, all right, this is kind of like a combination of two games. And for a little while, I had Super Mario 3. What was the one that came out for 3DS?
Oh, 3D Land?
3D Land?
Yeah.
Yeah, Super Mario 3D Land. And it reminded me a lot of Super Mario Galaxy. So, I mean, the game, maybe it's because, like that one article said, that they pumped out 4 Mario games in under 2 years.
Yeah.
Like they're starting to saturate. So, I don't know, maybe I'm just numb to it because there's a new Mario game out, and it's like, it looks the same like the other one. So, I mean, and the Wind Waker HD, great, but I already got the GameCube version, which looks, it's aged well enough. I guess there's a new Mario Kart coming out this year, but Mario Kart Wii has ruined me from Mario Kart. Oh man, that game used to make me so mad when I played that game. And single player, like offline or online, just so infuriating. That's another topic. Like I have a whole like dissection of that game of why it sucks.
Yeah.
Or I should say why I don't like it. But I don't know. It's just the Wii U right now does not have anything that's making me say like, yeah, I could probably get one of those. Right now, it looks like the only thing that might change my mind is a really good looking Zelda game, and even then, I'll probably wait for the Wii U to come down in price before I get it. And this will be like the first Zelda game since I think the Wind Waker that I didn't get on launch day.
Wow. Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah, and Wind Waker I didn't get on launch day because I didn't have a GameCube. Before that, I got Majora's Mask and Ocarina on launch day. So
Yeah. It's yeah.
another thing that and I don't know if again I don't have a Wii U, so I this may not be fair to criticize it for this, but I'm criticizing Nintendo for this. Is like their online, and not just their online, but their whole player account system is kind of confusing for me anyway. Like on the 3DS, for example, I wanted to download that Monster Hunter 3 demo, but before I did that, I had to sign up for some sort of Nintendo account.
Yeah.
But it's really confusing because I'm reading this and it seems like they have such a stranglehold on their software and how you can use it, because you have to agree to creating this account, but once you're on that, you can't transfer your account to another handheld, I think, and any funds and games you have on the previous handheld won't get transferred, and you lose all that. And like, well, that's not fair. So I mean, like, I don't understand it, and I think the whole virtual console is kind of broken too. It just I'm if I like, for example, I think if it would be better and very much nicer of Nintendo if a game is able to be played on virtual console on a particular system, then if you bought it, you should be able to download it for that system. If you had one account, and let's say you bought Legend of Zelda for the Nintendo on Wii and the virtual console for $5, you shouldn't have to go and spend $5 to play it on your DS. You shouldn't have to spend $5 again to play it on your Wii U. If anything, maybe just give us like a discount, like, hey, I see you bought this for Wii. For $1, you could now purchase it for your DS. If they still want to like rake us for some money, at least only charge like $1 for it if we already bought it. I bought the original game back in the 80s for like $50, and then you're charging me $5 for the virtual console, and then you can charge me $5 again to put it on my handheld, and then I can buy a new Nintendo system, the Wii U, and you can charge me $5 again for it. It's like, what? I'm paying for this game like 4 times. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of crappy. I can understand if a game is like for that came out for Nintendo 64, and it may not be able to be playable on the 3DS because it's missing all the buttons. Just don't make it available then. But if the system could play it, it should be available. You should have one account with all your games and everything you bought in that account, and you could play it on that profile for that system.
Yeah.
My opinion.
And I think that kind of goes along with what everyone's expectations are. If you buy an iPhone and you download 400 versions of Angry Birds, and then you get a new iPhone, those 400 versions of Angry Birds are going to work on it because it's the same account.
Yeah.
A lot of the apps that you buy for your iPhone will work on your iPad. If you have Android and you're buying stuff from the Play Store, you download it on your tablet, and then you could also download it on your phone. And I think that's the expectation that people have, is that you get it once and you play it on anything as long as it supports it. I believe the Wii U can play your virtual console games from your Wii, but it has to be in like the Wii compatibility mode. I don't know. There's when you go to play a Wii game on the Wii U, you drop the disc in, and there's actually like a compatibility thing, kind of like the GameCube on the Wii. You can play GameCube games on it. So you basically go into the Wii underneath the Wii U, and I guess you could play them from there, but
Seems like an unnecessary step.
it does seem like an unnecessary step. And if you were able to just say like one account, okay, well you already bought this, so here you go, just download it to your Wii U. It would just make a lot more sense, and it'd be a lot less kludgy.
Yeah.
There's some weird stuff with the 3DS. I was reading a little bit about it, and I guess there's ways to transfer your stuff over, but it's not clear. Like, you can't just pick up a new DS, 3DS, sign into it, and download your stuff. Like, there's a weird transfer kind of thing, and it sounded confusing to me. And if it's confusing to me, it's got to be confusing to parents who aren't into all this stuff.
Right, yeah, and it's scary too, because I don't want to lose my funds. Like, I bought. And another thing is these like, you go into the store and you can buy, a points card for your Wii U and 3DS, but it's not gonna work on your Wii, on your regular Wii. So you buy a $50 card, and if you don't have a Wii U or a 3DS, like, sorry, those points don't work. Which, it's like, come on, like, it's and $50. Like, is it really that much different? But one thing I don't like is that you can only buy, like, you can't just buy a game for the price that's there. You got to buy credits in increments of 5 or 10, which wouldn't be bad if the games were cost like $5 evenly or $10 evenly, but they're $4.99, and then they charge tax on top of that. So Nintendo will always have change left over. Right. Nobody's ever gonna be able to come out exactly even unless they spent like an absorbent amount of money. But if you buy like a $20 card, sorry, you're gonna have like $2 or $3 probably left on the table that Nintendo's gonna happily, keep in their pockets, and you'll never see it again. That's kind of crappy in my opinion, because I bought stuff from PlayStation on PlayStation 3, and it's like, hey, this add-on pack costs $19.99. Please put in your credit card. I put in my credit card. I was charged $19.99. They didn't take any extra money off me, and they're holding like $2. And they didn't say like, okay, well, first buy a $25 gift card. All right, congratulations. Now try and find something that's like under the amount of money like that you have left over from this gift card. It's, I don't know, not cool, Nintendo. Not cool. That type of stuff's what turns me off to Nintendo. It's like their modern thinking. They have such that stranglehold on their titles, and I think it hurts them in the long run, because they're so worried about like piracy and people sharing games and everything like that it's scaring people away probably from actually buying games.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely
spit a lot out there. I know you had some points you want to make on those things. I kept talking. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well.
You mentioned the commercials before, and I wanted to make, and I didn't get a chance to say it, but I agree with you that, like, I did not see any commercials really. I can't remember any commercials until this past holiday season, and really it was only like 2 commercials under that quote pitch in quote style, where the kids are doing mock business meetings with either their parents or other kids, which it's such a bad marketing campaign. Ooh, nothing says fun like business meetings and trending data and everything like that. It's really poor. So the marketing is like, what marketing? I haven't seen it until recently, so I didn't even know like what was even available for the Wii U. And that one where they're talk to their parents, and at the end that father's like, looks like I haven't upgraded. Bow!
Oh yeah, that was cringeworthy.
Oh yeah. It's like, oh come on, marketing team, are you trying to make the system seem lame? When I was a kid, like 8, 9 years old, I wouldn't like the commercial then. I always hated when they made parents or adults intentionally uncool.
Yeah.
Like, go out of the way to make the parents like, oh, we get it. They're adults. They don't get it. They're not hip to it. You don't have to make adults seem more lame than we already are. I understand. I'm not a kid anymore. I don't get the trends that like the teenagers and kids are having now. I don't get it. I have no problem admitting that, but I'm not going to be like, looks like I got upgraded. ow. It's like, why? No.
I may do that someday just to annoy you.
No. But then you contrast it with the PlayStation. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just the TV I'm watching, but maybe there's more Wii U commercials during like Saturday morning cartoons or after school cartoons, which obviously I don't watch because I'm working. But but like, I'll see the PlayStation commercials during like football or anything like that. But they're at least they're good commercials. Like my favorite one is like where those two guys are singing like, "Oh, it's a perfect day." Like
I love that
I
commercial.
love it. I know. I laugh every time it comes on. You know, like
it does the job of selling the idea of it's two guys who are buddies who are playing these video games. They're playing like some medieval fighting game.
Yeah.
They're racing games together. They're in like a futuristic like war kind of game, and you watch it and you're like, oh, those guys are just having fun playing together, and they don't need to come right out and say, you know, this is the system and this is what it does, and it's just clever and it's entertaining. And Sony for the last few years has actually had pretty good commercials.
yes, they have. But I kudos to Sony's marketing department because like in today's world, especially where you have like DVRs and fast forward through like commercials, like that's one of the few commercials that make me like stop like the fast forward and like, oh, it's this commercial, I want to watch it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's getting me to watch those commercials. So and just what they were doing, like the medieval thing or that battle scene. You know, the guys, you know, they were clearly two best friends having a good time, but they also look like badasses at the same time. And it's like, yeah, that's how I want to be. I want to be like, you know, racing cars and making some guy crash his car and everything like that. So like, yeah, that's the type of system I could get behind. And I love its slogan, "Greatness awaits."
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get the demographic is different, but and you know, actually, here's a point to bring up. Nintendo's always kind of had the kid and family demographic wrapped up pretty good.
Yeah.
I feel like that may not be a sure bet for them in the future, and maybe even to some degree right now, because kids are younger and younger and playing, you know, Call of Duty. I don't think I'd let my 8 or 10-year-old play Call of Duty, but it's happening.
It's a tough call because we were playing Wolfenstein when we were 8 and 10 years old.
I know, but they were different. I mean,
that's true. It certainly wasn't as realistic as today's.
Yeah, I mean, you shoot one of those Nazis and the blood goes spraying out and everything, and it's almost kind of hilarious.
Yeah. And like you're sneaking up behind guys and like cutting their throats with knives and everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of realistic and the gurgling and everything.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah, I remember, you know, kind of growing up with these games where, you know, okay, Wolfenstein, yeah, we were 8, 10 or whatever, and yeah, maybe a little young for a game like that, and then Doom came out, and, you know, it was kind of cartoony, though. Like, it was, you know, there are no demons walking around and you're shooting them.
Mortal Kombat.
I mean, it's over the top kind of.
Yeah, it's like you can't uppercut somebody's head off.
Right.
You just can't, you know.
Yeah.
And despite what happened in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, you can't rip somebody's heart out with your bare hand just by throwing it to the chest. There's one of the hardest bones in the body, the sternum, is in the way. So
yeah,
you know.
There is a certain amount of non-realism in all of those, and I remember I was definitely a teenager, but later in the teenage years when Soldier of Fortune came out on the PC. Now, when that came out, I remember even then I was like blowing off limbs and stuff, and I was like, man, this game is awesome. And even then I knew, I was like, this game would not have really flown in my house when I was about 10 years old. That
I agree. Yes, I would not have been allowed to play that game. I was barely allowed to play Mortal Kombat, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but younger kids are playing these kinds of games, and it's, I don't know that it's going to be a massive trend. I mean, I think there's always a place for, you know, the games like Mario, and to be honest with you, nobody other than Nintendo really ever gets that right anymore. The platforming Mario style games, nobody really seems to be able to do Zelda. Which, hey, you know what? I love the Zelda games, and if somebody was able to do a really good Zelda-ish game, I'd be all over that. I've played a few that were kind of a little bit like it, but it wasn't the same. So Nintendo has, they have a particular type of game, and they do it well, and it catches on with younger audiences and just people who just like to have fun. But I don't think it's as much of a lock as it used to be.
Yeah. Going back and round back, let me try that again. Rounding back to what we were talking about with the demographic and everything like that. I'm wondering also if like Nintendo's core audience is fading, which I would consider like maybe their core audience being like between 5 and 12 years old, because when you start getting a teenager, you start thinking you don't want to be a kid anymore. You start trying to separate yourself from being a kid, so you jump up to PlayStation or Xbox because that's what all your friends are getting and everything like that. So kids between like 5 and 12 years old, they could be entertained with games on tablets and phones for $5. These little like small little app games that the parents like, oh here kid, he wants to play. Let me fire up my tablet. Here play Angry Birds. $5. There you go. The kid's entertained for the half an hour or whatever, and then he's off to something else with a short attention span. So it may be also that there's not as many kids. Like the demographic is shrinking, because the older kids are going to go for the quote unquote hardcore systems, and the younger kids are being entertained by mobile apps and everything like that. So, just to speculate another way of looking at it. So that 5 to 12-year-old group the Nintendo aims for is, getting snatched up by other things.
I think that's definitely a factor. I know so many kids that have iPod touches and iPads and things, and I don't see them playing games on the TV as much as they used to. Although, when it first came out of the gate, it was a bit of a stumble. But the 3DS didn't do so well at first, and now they have sold over 40 million, and they're growing. It's quite impressive, I think.
Yeah.
When the DS is I think the second best-selling video game system of all time, next to PlayStation 2, and it's only behind by a couple million. It's huge, and I think a big part of that is Japan too. But it was huge, and when the 3DS came out, I thought, well, there's no way that people are now playing games on tablets and their phones, and this was kind of right around that time, but they dropped the price. They put out some couple of really good games, and it's doing great. It's doing really great. So it's kind of interesting to see Nintendo doing rather poorly in the living room, but doing really well still with handhelds in a market that a couple years ago I would have said was on its way out. And like the dedicated handheld console is going to be like the MP3 player. No, you don't buy an MP3 player.
Yeah,
you buy you have a phone. But it's interesting to see them persevere like that, and it kind of brings me to an idea I had for them if they don't do a successor to the Wii U. If they're like, hey, you know what, the living room is kind of lost. What if they played to their strength, and when the successor to the 3DS comes out, they make the system the DS successor? I'm going to call it the 4DS because it can make time travel.
Okay.
But I don't know if they'll figure that out, but if it can do time travel, it'll be great. So you get your 4DS.
How's it shaped in like a blue ocarina,
Yeah, that'd be great. But you get your 4DS, and you're playing it. It could play with your buddies and everything. Everybody has one, and But when you want to play together, or you want to play on the big screen, there would be I'll call it a receiver, a tiny little Roku box type looking thing. You hook up to your TV, plug an HDMI port, and it's basically be the reverse of the Wii U. Instead of the Wii U playing the game on your gamepad screen and throwing it out there, you're pushing it to the TV. I don't know if they would do that, but it kind of gets them the best of both worlds. And the graphics that I've seen coming out of CES is actually going on this week, the Consumer Electronics Show, and NVIDIA was showing off some of their new technology, and it works with the newest Unreal Engine, and it looked pretty good for a mobile processor.
Really?
Yeah, and you figure in a couple more years, you could probably throw that into a handheld, and it'd be even better than what it is today. And when you throw it on the TV, it'll probably look pretty damn good. So, I mean, that's always an option. I would be for something like that. I don't know if Nintendo would, but I think everybody needs to look at doing something a little different. PlayStation Now was announced. Are you familiar with PlayStation
I am not,
Now?
actually. I'm sorry.
PlayStation Now is Sony's new service. It's coming out later this year, I think in the summertime. And what it's going to do is actually stream your games from their data centers to either your PlayStation 3, your PlayStation 4, your PlayStation Vita, your television. If you have a newer Bravia television, you could plug your PlayStation controller into it, I guess. But their idea is actually to take the games, put them out in the cloud, and play them on almost anything. And, you do that, maybe you don't need a PlayStation 4 anymore. You can, if the processing to make those graphics look so good is done elsewhere, and you're really just getting the video stream of it, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I would save them like so much money on hardware.
Yeah.
Which is usually where they lose most of their money.
Right.
Nintendo is always taking a hit on every Wii U they sell.
Yeah. So, I mean, Sony's doing something different. Microsoft, they had a hard time after they announced the Xbox One to convince people, like, we're about the game still, because it put such a force into this thing being just an entertainment machine, playing all your videos and it being voice controlled, so you can just say, like, TV on, and you can browse the television, you can go through your channel guide. So they're all kind of diversifying and going in new directions to kind of future-proof themselves. And I hope Nintendo has something like that in mind, because I don't think the console concept is dead. I think the idea of it being just a dedicated gaming machine kind of started to fade away in the last generation, but more so now. And I think that it's going to change dramatically in the next couple of years, and be interesting to see, what Nintendo does, if anything, to stay competitive in the living room.
Yeah, I was going to actually mention that it's weird that... Where's my notes? Oh, here it is. I was going to say, yeah, because that, I think, is actually a big weakness of the Wii U. Is probably another thing hurting it, is that, the best of my knowledge, or at least the way I look at it, the way it goes through like my glasses, is it's a game console, and that's really all it is. Kind of like the Wii, just a game console. Whereas both the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One are being marketed as like single, all-encompassing entertainment systems. Even my PlayStation 3, it's I don't use half its features that are available.
Yeah.
But I could watch Netflix, I could watch YouTube, I could watch Amazon Instant Video, I could play Blu-ray movies. PlayStation 3 had that. It only does everything advertising campaign, and the Wii U can't even play Blu-ray discs.
No.
Multi-function is huge, and I'm sure the Wii U could play, does Netflix, because the Wii
did it. Yeah.
We did it, but
yeah,
the Wii U seems to come off as video game console first, everything else secondary, where not quite the same with PlayStation 4. Those do come off as like, video game console first, but everything else not so secondary, everything else also available. It's a subtle difference, but it's a difference, So I think that might, it's another striking, or at least tarnish on Nintendo, or black eye on Nintendo. I think that, or at least it was not handled very well.
Yeah, they did have the TV concept. If you remember, it was to use the gamepad with the touchscreen as kind of your controller for the living room. Mm-hmm. And you'd be able to use it to interact with your television and things, but it didn't seem to really take off, and it didn't really work as well as advertised. I know there was some issues with it early on, and I think it was a good idea, and it was one of those where everybody has their own way of conquering something. And now the current thing is the living room. How do you get the old dumb television box to become smarter? And so the people are buying these little gadgets and things to connect to it so it can get online and do things. And that was Nintendo's idea, and I don't think theirs took off.
Yeah.
And Sony, Microsoft, I think they're in a better position. I think actually Microsoft's probably in the best position. But then you've got your Rokus and Apple TV and endless other things, and they all have different ways, and I don't think Nintendo hit the mark on that one.
Yeah. So there's that one article that you sent me that was called "What the Hell is Wrong with Nintendo?" That was written by Chris Kohler on December 5th, 2013, posted at 6:30 a.m. It's on Wired.com in the section Game Life. But he had a really interesting idea on what to do to maybe help the Wii U sales, and one of those things was, since we griped so much about the controller, was removing that controller, which apparently costs about $135, removing that, packing it in with the classic controller instead, and then reducing the price by that $135. So selling a Wii U classic controller, assuming that you could patch the game system so that it doesn't require the use of the touchscreen gamepad. You can navigate around with the Wii remote or the classic controller. If that was the case, it would certainly make me more probable of buying one. Like if it was able to drop the price by like $135, and not all games require like a touch screen or use of the gamepad, it's I'd be like, well, that seems a little bit better.
Yeah, I would definitely be in favor if it was cheaper, and you didn't really need that big gamepad. If the games, I'm sure there's a few games that are out today that would not be compatible, but the vast majority, and those going forward, I think would probably work, and I think that would definitely increase sales. You'd get the sales from parents and families who might be a little hesitant to dump that kind of money into a console again, and then for the gamer who already has the Xbox, the PlayStation, or both, and they're like, hey, you know what, for the price, you can't beat it, and hey, it's always good to play a Mario game, or Mario Kart, and whatever game, Zelda, at a good price, they'll buy it as a tertiary system or secondary system. So I don't think it's a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all I think I got right now.
Yeah.
I'm cool with wrapping up if you are.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah. I mean, it's I will say that it's very possible that in a year I could be totally eating all my words right now. The Wii U can land that one game that makes it the must-have system, and everything we just talked about. You go back and listen. I'm like, boy, was I dumb. So I mean, but that's good. I actually hope it does. I hope Nintendo proves me wrong and makes me look foolish for all this like griping and complaining I'm doing right now. I hope. I mean, I've been wrong about a lot of stuff. So, and I love Nintendo and I'm pulling for it. So I mean, I want to be wrong about the Wii U. But right now, in the beginning of January 2014, it's like they got a big hill to climb right now. So
they do. Yeah, and I agree. I would maybe even consider one today if I had more disposable income, which you do not have. But if I had the money to kind of just throw at it, honestly, I'd like to
have a lot less disposable income in a couple months.
Exactly. Yeah. I would like to play Super Mario 3D World. I would like to play that Wind Waker HD because it just looks so good. There's a lot coming down. There's another Smash Brothers game coming out this year.
Oh yeah.
There's just a lot that I think it has potential for, and I'd like to get one, but I can't justify the cost, and there's not enough games, I think, for me to want to take a plunge in. Unlike the 3DS, which
I know. I have a list of games I want for the 3DS right now.
Yeah. So I'm rooting and pulling for Nintendo. I really hope that there's an upswing and it really takes off. we griped about it, I think, more than we praised it. I don't know that we really praised it much at all. But honestly, it's because of love. I don't I don't think we want this
I won't
to
knock
be
the system specs. It seems like it's a really powerful system, and so that's not a problem or anything. But just market a little bit better, and just change. Something's got to change because it does not come off as very appealing right now.
Yeah, it needs to find a voice, I think.
Yeah.
I think it needs a direction and a voice, and I don't think it's clear as to what that is. So hopefully it gets that, and we'll have a future episode where we'll be talking about how episode 2 was, so different from the way we're thinking today, and,
What were we thinking back
what we're
then?
thinking. Yeah.
If only we had that 4DS to go back and tell us what we were wrong about.
If only that 4DS wasn't delayed another 6 months. I think that, I guess that's going to wrap it up for our Wii U discussion.
All right.
But always been a good time. Next time, I believe we are going to talk about A Link Between Worlds.
Yes, that'll be a good topic.
Yes, it will. So we're very excited to talk about that one. So until next time, we will see you soon. Keep playing, and
Happy gaming.
happy gaming.
Ready.